welcome to PushMower Repair. Today we're going to begin to disassemble a Victa lawnmower. We're going to do a series of videos showing how to disassemble it from start to finish. The tools you're going to need for this video is a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, some needle nose pliers, possibly some cutters, and also a large socket wrench with a 24mm socket. And while you're removing the blades, you may also need a fence post or some wood of similar kind. Today we're going to start with the Victa Commando key start mower. This mower is similar to most of the Powertorque mowers that any of you might have, with the addition of the key start, which is helpful if any of you have that mower. We'll begin by removing these 3 Phillips head screws in the top cowl. Once you remove the 3 top screws, there's a screw here that we've already taken out, and there's one here as well that we'll take out. Once that's removed, undo the fuel cap. Okay, so next we're going to put the fuel cap back on, turn off the fuel, and remove the fuel hose, then remove the fuel tank. Then we're just going to lift off this plastic cover, thread the pull start out, and that comes off. Then this plastic cover should just lift up, that comes off. Now we're down to the main engine and carburetor. Okay, you can see it's super messy, so next we're going to get an air compressor and blow it all out so we can access more of the mower. So as you can see here, we've thoroughly cleaned the mower and got rid of all that gunked up grass that was everywhere. Now we have access to the rest and we can disassemble it without getting it absolutely filthy. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the muffler. In order to remove the muffler, you just get a flathead screwdriver, put it there and pry the clip across. Then using some pliers you can lift the clip up. Next, in order to get the muffler off, we have to remove this second clip at the bottom. This one can be a little bit difficult. If you grab it with some pliers, you can generally persuade it to come off. Just got to pull it back and then yank it out of the way. See there, we're very close. We'll just get a screwdriver in there. We should be able to jiggle it off. There we go. Now that clip's detached, we should be able to jiggle the muffler and get it off. Sometimes the gasket can rust and they can be quite difficult, but if you get your screwdriver back and forth, eventually they will come out, like so. There you can see it's a bit rough, but overall not too bad condition. And now we have the muffler off, we're going to move on to the carburetor. The simplest way to remove the carburetor is to first gently undo the hoses. You might want the assistance of a screwdriver just to gently push them off. You want to be careful because if you break these, they are replaceable, but it will just be painful for you. So there we go. I've got the hose on the decompressor off. I'm going to go to the back of the carburetor now and follow the hose to the crankcase and remove that. Now all the hoses are removed, we're just going to twist the carburetor, pushing the front down and pulling the back up, and then gently wiggle it off. And now the remaining connections are part of the on-off ignition system. And so in order to remove them, first you grab the black wire and pull it out. Then next you grab the other one and pull it out like so. Now the carburetor is free and removed off the engine. We'll follow it up and remove it off the handle shortly. The only other thing holding the carburetor and air intake component in is this Phillips head screw. Sometimes it's a bolt. All you need to do is undo it. You might need to hold the nut on the other side with a pair of pliers, but most of the time your fingers will do the job just fine. Once that's removed, the key start, if you've got one, will simply come off, and this will simply pull off. And now all we have to do to separate the air intake from the engine is cut the cable tie down here that is securing the key start and air intake together, and then we're free. Having the carburetor off and the air intake off makes it quite easy to replace the throttle cable or service the carburetor if that's what you need to do. The next step in disassembling your mower is to prop it up like we have. The best way to do it is to lay it down and put some weight on the handle. As you can see, we've used a very sad cousin of this mower. So now it's up there, sitting up. What you can do is you can get a piece of wood. A fence post usually works pretty well, and you want to jam it in between the blade disc and the chassis. That way the disc won't be able to spin while you're trying to undo this nut, as it can be quite difficult to undo if it's rusted and been on there for years. The nut is usually 24mm. So if you get a big spanner on it, a big socket wrench, it's usually your best bet. Luckily for us, this one wasn't too bad. If it's really bad, you can grind them off if you're careful about the thread, or if you get a chisel and a hammer, you can whack them real hard and they'll slowly turn around. So sometimes when you're undoing or doing up the blades, the engine will start to spin and the blade plate will remain stationary and the bolt will go nowhere because the engine's spinning. What you need to do then is find an object. A screwdriver works, but something a bit softer and a bit bigger, like a small piece of wood, would work better. And what you do is you get your screwdriver and you put it in the flywheel up here, like that, so that the flywheel can't spin. Then you can come back here and continue undoing the bolt, but if you feel a lot of resistance and it's very hard to turn, you need to stop because you're going to snap a blade off your flywheel. Now you can see our progress so far. All the auxiliary parts are off the engine. All that remains is the block with the starter and the inner parts and the chassis. In our next video we're going to remove the engine from the chassis and take it apart piece by piece, and then we may do another video featuring how to remove the wheels and the axles from the chassis.